I remember when I lost my mind. There was something so pleasant about that place.
The latest information on the H1N1, of course, this virus is perfectly parallel with 1918, and of course the theory is the Herald wave. Dr. Gleason actually is the one who authored this. Lots of research to show that this initial mild wave is going to be followed by those with new recombination, new lethality, and it's thought that this flu by itself is spreading quickly enough that infecting enough people, even though its case fatality rate is relatively low, it's going to put a lot of people in the hospital and it's going to kill a lot of people. And as it acquires new genetics by abnormal replications through this PB2 gene that's very fast but making defective copies, recombination, it's going to change quickly into a more lethal strain. Your analysis, Dr. Carley.
Well, I totally concur, and of course it's very suspicious to me how this is spreading. I suspect that it's very likely that they've also put some of these viruses in other vaccines that are being given to give this a jump start, because obviously this fall is their apparent timeline in terms of when they would like to start forcing the vaccine. As a matter of fact, I was sent an article from legitgov.org that's announcing that in France they're planning on making the vaccine mandatory starting this fall for all French citizens over 3 months of age.
Isn't that unbelievable? It's and they say, as a matter of fact, these doctors, these gods, they say, well, of course there's no option. They have no personal autonomy. We don't care if they have side effects or death. We're the doctors, and we decree that they should have to take this, even if it's useless or dangerous or even causes a pandemic, like the swine vaccine in 1976 that paralyzed over 500, killed roughly 30, and cost millions of dollars in lawsuits, and a lot more damage probably happened than those numbers.
Well, and now, of course, they've tried to make themselves immune from any kind of lawsuits in regards to death or maiming caused by the vaccines. If it's not clear to people at this point that their agenda is, in fact, genocide, I don't know what else it's going to take except for, your loved ones and family members dropping dead around you. I would like to also bring up the issue of informed consent, and that's another thing that they have to contemplate. I encourage the listeners to check these things out. I have in front of me the Human Research Protection Program from the Department of Navy. And in fact, even under the military guidelines, they're supposed to give informed consent for experimentation on soldiers. Now, by definition, this vaccine is going to be experimental because there's no way they could have possibly tested it properly. And so that's another issue that people can take in regards to refusing to allow this to be injected into them. What I tell people is there's no difference between them holding a gun to your head or this syringe to your arm. And as a matter of fact, it's probably much easier, the death that you would have from a gunshot than from this vaccine.
Exactly. I went on one of the message boards to see the comments because Alex has a system over in his websites that are pretty, Alex Jones, whose program, of course, is the top program here on Genesis Network. And, boy, the comments that people made there, if they come at me with a needle, quote, they're dead. Well, I'm going to make this statement, and I want other people to get a backbone out there and stop whining to me that, oh, my God, can you rescue me, Dr. Deagle, if they give me the shot? No. I can try to help to kill the pathogens on, detox you, et cetera. But do you think, really, if they declare martial law, you're going to have access? If they come at me with a needle for a forced vaccine, they're not going home to mama. They're going to die. People need to know that we're going to have a revolt of the highest kind if there's any attempt to force vaccinate the public. We're going to start off with legal challenges through our injunctions, but this means war. They're not going to force vaccinate me or anyone else. If they try to, it's going to be blood and guts. Believe me, people. You have to understand how serious this is.
Yes, their agenda is genocide. That's what their agenda is. As a matter of fact, I also have an article in front of me that was published in Science Daily on May 20th where they actually reported that children who get the flu vaccine have 3 times the risk of hospitalization for flu.
Right.
I mean, the evidence is never ending. I cannot even get my book finished because I've entered this black hole. In researching these issues, there's so much information out there proving that vaccines are, in fact, the true weapons of mass destruction.
Right.
As a matter of fact, the article on my site, drcarley.com, I had written that article, Inoculations of True Weapons of Mass Destruction, years ago, and I update it frequently. And here I find out right in the model state health law's definition that vaccines are underneath that guide.
Yeah.
So this is very important for people to face. I know it's hard. They don't want to believe their government would have an agenda to kill them. But if I could mention one other very important thing, you had mentioned about people entering the hospitals. Last year they published an article stating how they were going to triage people as the hospitals become filled up with the next pandemic. You know, it's funny how they always knew it was coming, and they're going to just let die. They have a whole list of criteria. Chronically ill people, like those on dialysis, they've got a certain age range. Anybody that's burned, they've already figured out who they're going to let die.
Yeah, in fact, they have what's called triage criteria. It's similar to the Apache score system in the ICU. If you get over a certain score, man, you're dead. They just yank the ventilator, they pull off the monitor, they just let you roll you over in a corner and let you arrest.
Exactly.
Now, people say, oh, no, doc, they don't do that. I said, look, you know, you need to get a life, okay? We're down
Of course they do that.
Yeah, of course they do that.
I mean, EMT school, that's what they teach you.
Exactly.
I worked in the ICU. That's exactly what they did, and I left there in the early 90s. From what I'm getting reports from nurses especially, I mean, it's actually gone to the euthanasia level.
Oh, yeah.
They kill people on the night shift. They do it with morphine, mismatched transfusions, and drug cocktails.
Right, and they do it, by the way, it's a carte blanche in Canada. It's funny, I heard about the murder of this Dr. Stiller, when there's supposedly 3 clinics only. I heard there was actually 4 in the U.S. for late-term abortions. Well, guess what? There's not a city or town in Canada that you can't get a late-term abortion right up to the moment of delivery. So when people say they want the Canadian healthcare system, they're out of their freaking mind. They're out of their mind. Dr. True Ott, your comments on this, because this is really serious. People need to know when they're talking about forced vaccination. I talk to people that are freaked out in Massachusetts by this law that they passed through there, so the state legislature, and, of course, the federal edicts by this previous president, and not been reversed by Obama. He is not a leftist socialist. He's a corporate fascist. People need to grasp that. He's not for the left or the right. He's for the banks. He is for fascism, period. And he backs their eugenics plan, their carbon taxes, the whole 9 yards of reducing the population. We are literally seeing the rise of the Fourth Reich. Your comments, Dr. Ott.
Well, absolutely. And again, it goes back to who and what. And I just gotta say how warped this thinking of the Illuminati elite are. I mean, from the halls of Hitler, from his pages of his Mein Kampf, My Struggle, as to what he really wants to be as far as social and evolutionary Darwinism. He just wants to help it all along, you see.
Yeah.
And that's the whole agenda going on here, folks. There's absolutely no doubt about it that Henry Kissinger and the rest of these Nazis, they are what they are. They are Nazis.
Yeah.
Following the surrender of Berlin and the fall of Berlin and the dividing up of Berlin with being Western and Soviet forces, the edicts of Himmler and the SS went underground and went absolutely worldwide, and the seeds were sown then. They're reaping the fruit today. That's what it's all about.
But all of that eugenics originated in the U.S. and was exported to Nazi Germany. And believe me, it's back home, and it's growing like crazy under the Obama administration. We'll be back in a moment with an update from Jane Bergermeister in Vienna, Austria. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Nutrimedical Report. And now we're connected to overseas, to Austria, Vienna, to Jane Bergermeister, the latest in the summary of the Austrian Health Minister, Alois Steger, to the Parliament, and clearly a cover-up. And Chancellor Werner Faymann was at the Bilderberg meeting in Athens this year, rubbing shoulders with Novartis CEO. And, of course, you need to file criminal charges quickly. Let's go through these bullet points, translated from German to English, so people can follow. And I'd like to hear the response of Dr. True Ott, Dr. Carley, and Alexander S. Jones. Go ahead, Jane.
Well, I mean, the key thing is that 72 kilos of this live bird flu and influenza was sent out from Baxter, which is a huge quantity and cannot be explained away as an accident by any measure.